What does it mean to be a Ben Torah in the workforce? This is one of the big questions that this podcast has focused on. Rav Hutner famously distinguished between a broad life and a double life. But what does that look like in reality? Through the journey of this podcast, I've started to develop a clearer picture. I think that one of the main features of a Ben Torah in the workforce is someone who uses all of his skills, interests, and network to serve Hashem and serve the Jewish people. And that is why I was so taken by today's guest, Dr. Shilo Kramer. Not only is he firmly rooted in Torah values, but he has succeeded, especially since October 7th, to combine his skills, his interests, and his network to accomplish some incredible things for the Jewish people. Dr. Kramer is the Director of Inpatient Rehabilitation and Residency Program at Adi Negev, a very special institution which you will learn more about in this episode. Before we jump in, I just want to say thank you to everyone who reached out with words of strength and comfort. The journey ahead of us is still long, but having the love and support of friends is such a big part of it. We will continue to remember Eli Moshe Zimbalist and continue to daven for the success and safety of all IDF soldiers. And now, here's this week's episode with Dr. Shilo Kramer. My name is Yaakov Wolf, and this is Stark Tank. So you had an interesting journey. You started in Israel, you went back to the U.S., and now you're back here in Israel. So maybe tell us a little bit about that journey and how you ended up having such a back and forth trip.
I was born in Yerushalayim, and I lived the first 12 years of my life in Israel, in Ra'anana, and in Shomron, in Neve, and then when I was 12, my parents were sent by the Jewish Agency to teach in Vancouver, Canada. They were missing Jewish studies teachers. And we moved, my parents, myself, and my 4 younger siblings to Vancouver. We lived there for 3 years. I was there for 2 years. I had my bar mitzvah there with not many of my friends. It was challenging, but we made the best out of it, and I really picked up my English skills, and that was a springboard for me. And then I came back to Israel for 9th grade and half of 10th grade to achieve my year. In Israel, I was dorming there in the yeshiva tichonit there. And then my parents decided to move me back to, by then my parents already moved to Teaneck, New Jersey in the beginning of my 10th grade year. I decided that they're going to move me back to the States with them. It was better for the family. And I started Ramaz in the middle of 10th grade, graduated Ramaz in 2000. Then I went to a gap year in Ma'ale Adumim, Yeshivat Ma'ale Adumim, from Sabato Rabinovich. And after that, I started Yeshiva University in my undergrad degree. I got married during my college years to my dear wife, Sylvia. We lived on the Upper East Side. I was also working as a chazan and balgore and as an assistant rabbi through the beginners program with Rabbi Eli Weinstock and Gila Jeshurun and with Rabbi Lookstein. I was their chazan also for the second minyan in the JJ for Yamim Noleya, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I did a lot of other things. I was teaching bar mitzvah kids in the community. I was tutoring a lot in Jewish studies while I was attending medical school. And then I did my residency in physical medicine and rehabilitation at Nassau University Medical Center in Osher LIJ, and my fellowship in cancer rehabilitation at the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And then I started working. My family we moved from Queens to Long Island, Cedarhurst, and to Woodmere. And then we decided that in the beginning of the COVID wave, the first COVID wave, that it's time to go back home. So so on June 5th, we decided we're making Aliyah, and on August 10th, we were on a flight to Israel, and we moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh. I had job offers in physical medicine and rehab as a physician in the field from every single rehab hospital, but I decided to use my skills where I would give the most amount of contribution to the country. I did not do Army service, IDF service, as I was not in Israel at the time. I was in the States, and I decided that I wanted to give back to the country in the best way that I can. And so I found this oasis here in the middle of the desert in the western northern Negev, Adi Negev, Nachalat Tehran, and I decided that I am going to work over here. I ran the inpatient rehabilitation wards, both the neurological and orthopedic ward. We're the only inpatient rehabilitation hospital in the entire Negev region. There are other wards in the Negev, but not as massive as our facility. And then Baruch Hashem, more staff joined, and I became now the director of orthopedic rehabilitation ward. I have 40 patients under my belt, and a quarter of them are injured soldiers and citizens from October 7th and that aftermath. That's a little bit of my story.
Wow. So I want to, before we go a little deeper into your medical career and your specialties, I just wanted to go back to your time in yeshiva for a second, because you mentioned two great gedolim who you learned under, Rabbi Navis, Zichrono Livracha, and Yibad al-Chaim, Rav Sabato. Maybe share a little bit of your experience with them and their legacy as far as how they inspired you to continue your journey as a professional.
Yes, Rav Sabato was my Ram. He was my Rav Mechanech, and I was in his shir every single day. And we developed a very close kasher. And I remember at the time I was reading some of his books that he published. He's a prolific writer about his experiences from the Yom Kippur War, and he would tell us about his journey, and it really made a big impact on me in terms of here's someone who basically took his difficulties and challenges and challenged them to Torah. He took a vow that if Hashem saves him from the Yom Kippur War, while a lot of his friends were killed, in the tanks, that he is going to open up a yeshiva. And I said, wow, this person really sacrificed for Am Yisrael and all of his friends. I don't have that much. I'm not doing that as a program. I'm only going for a year. I need to maximize my time. So I basically did not sleep much during my gap year, and I was able to learn 10 Masechtos, many of them Be'iyun, some in Bekiyas, and that was because he inspired me. Rabbi Novis, Zichrono Livracha, was inspired. He was more a figure that he looked from far away, but he was very awe-inspiring. And I remember I was learning Chavrusa with his grandson, Rabbi Novis from Zachariah, Rabbi Novis, and he, in the end, was the head at my wedding. And we learned together on Masechet Shabbos during the lunch break, and while everybody wanted to take a nap in the afternoon, I stayed for an hour and a half, and we learned every single day on Masechet Shabbos between Pesach and a little after Shavuot. We were able to finish the entire Masechta, Bekiyas. It was an amazing feat and a great accomplishment. And I remember Rabbi Novich's, shiur shvui that he would give, and he was a master in taking stiras in the Rambam and finding solutions to those stiras. And he wrote a whole sefer about it. It's called Yad Pshuta. And I remember going through certain parts of that sefer, and I was just very, very much inspired. Now, Rabinovich, he has a PhD. His PhD, he wrote his thesis on mathematical, components that are found in the Gemara throughout the ages, throughout Chazal. And I remember, part of it had to do with pi, 3.14, da da da. And I was just also very, very amazed that a person of that caliber, took his intellect and channeled that to Torah study, and to show how everything that we learn in the secular worlds really is already discussed thousands of years ago by Chazal. And that just solidified in me. Like the Rambam says that there's two ways to come to Avas Hashem. One is to learn Torah. The other is to study sciences, cosmology, and understanding that Chok Natan V'lo Ya'avor, as we say every single day, is really all already predetermined from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and Hashem put these scientific constants into motion already from the creation of the world. From Chazal, it's amazing how Chazal knew about these things already thousands of years ago, and was passed down in tradition. And our modern day scientists only discovered them recently. So it just also gave a lot of strength in my emunah in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and I decided that I want to go into a field where, I can also make that impact on society and see and show the world that you can live as a Ben Torah in the modern world and really influence a lot of people around you to hopefully Bezat Hashem become B'nai Torah and Shomrei Torah mitzvahs.
Amazing. And so you mentioned your specialty. Could you explain what you do and what you specialize in very simple terms?
Yeah, so physical medicine and rehabilitation is my field. For short, in English, we call it physiatry. In Hebrew, it's refuah fizikait v'shikun. Basically, we are a bridge of fields that have been combined together: orthopedics, neurology, rheumatology, internal medicine. We are responsible to help a patient rehabilitate from acute and chronic injuries, manage their pain, make sure diagnose and treat neuromusculoskeletal disorders, and help the patient, throughout the process and maximize their quality of life to the best of their abilities. That's my field.
And so in plain terms, that means that someone who's suffered an injury, there are symptoms that have to do with their brain and their muscles and other systems, and you need to sort of be holistically looking at all those different things to get a full recovery?
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of different types of injuries. You have to really fully understand the nervous system, the central peripheral nervous system, as well as all the musculoskeletal systems, muscles, tendons, ligaments, bones. Diagnose and treat all of those conditions and know when you have to refer someone to a surgeon, when you can treat it conservatively, what type of modalities you would treat conservatively, what type of directions you're giving to the physical, occupational therapist, speech and swallow therapist, the rehab psychologist, the social workers. It's a multidisciplinary team that you have to lead.
And you mentioned before that you wanted to give back to the country when you made Aliyah. Now, anyone who makes Aliyah and is part of the Israeli ecosystem is contributing to the country. There's a famous Chassam Sofer who talks about this, that everyone working in Eretz Yisrael is not just working, he's Mekayim Tzasi Shiva Aretz. But you mentioned that specifically at Adi Negev, you felt that you could really make a contribution more than the other job options that you had. So could you explain why that's so, and maybe just also a little bit of background about Adi Negev?
So I'll tell you, Adi Negev Nachalat Iran was established in 2005 by Army General in reserves Doron Almog. Doron Almog was one of the few paratroopers that landed in Entebbe on July 4th, 1976, and saved 103 hostages in that operation. Yoni Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu's brother, was killed, and Doron Almog basically a few years later had a son who was born with severe disabilities. He named him Elan after his brother who was killed in the Yom Kippur War. And Doron basically took a vow that he will never leave the injured behind and those who are downtrodden. And then, ironically, he had this son that was born, and he named his son after his brother, Elan. And it turned out a few months later that Elan had severe disabilities. He was never able to talk. He was never able to attend to his bodily functions and needed 24/7 care and supervision. And when Iran was about to turn 21, Doron and his wife Didi were left with the dilemma of what exactly they should do with their son. Most of the facilities that were attending to the special needs community, highly dependent special needs community, or in very dark, old, decrepit buildings without much exposure to the outside world. And in the olden days, then they used to be looked at as, we used to call them retarded and people of no use to society, and people would shelter and hide them from the world. For example, Golda Meir had a granddaughter that was, with this type of retardation, and she hid it from the world. There's many other celebrities that hid it from the world. And the one said, no, this is not right. The one that did it, they decided we're going to build a beautiful facility. They opened it here in the Negev. They got 40 acres of land from the government and the municipality. And together with generous donors from throughout the Israeli governments and private donors and Jewish National Fund, JNF, they built this beautiful village for special needs community, people who are dependent. And they started with inpatient who live here 24/7. This is their home for life, for their adulthood. And then they expanded it to open up outpatient school system for those with special needs. And then they said, hey, this is not enough. We want to integrate them as part of society. So very wisely, what Dolan and Didi did is they opened up outpatient rehabilitation for the general population after an acute injury, a neurological or orthopedic injury, in 2011. This was 5 years after the village opened. And then they said, outpatient is not enough. We're also going to open up an inpatient rehabilitation ward to treat these people right after their acute injuries who still cannot go home. And they need to have a place close to home to rehabilitate and not send them to the center of Israel 2 hours, 3 hours away and put this tremendous yoke on their families, burden that they would have to travel back and forth every single day to visit their loved ones who are undergoing rehabilitation, inpatient rehabilitation. So they opened up a 29-bed inpatient ward here on the village. So Doron and Didi Almog decided that they are going to build a rehabilitation medical center hospital. And in June 2022, we opened up the wards with 40 inpatient beds in the neurological ward and another 40 inpatient beds in the orthopedic ward. And that's how this place has kind of like evolved. I run an orthopedic rehabilitation ward. That's, summary in large. And why I decided to work in Adi Negev and not anywhere else is because I wanted to really give from everything that I learned and experienced, I'd be able to offer it where it's really needed the most. And I felt that Adi Negev has everything that I needed to be able to give to a population that is underserved. Then, if I would have worked in the center of Israel, there are other rehabilitation doctors there that are doing a great job, and those places are already pretty well developed. I wanted to go up to barren land, to the Midbar, and now then develop a very vibrant rehabilitation program. You can build the nicest building in the world, nicest rehabilitation hospital, but if you don't have the proper staff to be able to offer, high-level 5-star rehabilitation services, then it's not really worth it. And so I decided to come here to the Negev, to Adi Negev, because I saw that they built these beautiful facilities and they needed desperately rehabilitation physicians to be able to offer high-level services to the patient population here. Or basically get patients from all over the Negev. The Negev constitutes 60% of Israel's size by space and 20% of Israel's population. And then 1/5 of Israel's population lives in the Negev. We're talking about hundreds of thousands, millions of citizens that are residing in these areas. The Negev is basically a true mixture of all of Israel's society. You have anywhere from ultra-Orthodox Haredi to extremely secular Jews, as well as Ethiopians, Russians, every ethnicity, and community you can find here in the Negev. We also have Bedouin, Arab Israelis that reside here in this area that are also attended to in our hospital. You know that these Bedouin Arabs actually saved a lot of Jewish lives throughout the years, and especially on October 7th, when a lot of them went out and to the Nova Festival and other areas throughout the Negev and were able to save many Israelis from imminent death. So it's important that we serve the entire community here, the entire community of the Negev, and I think we do that beautifully, and I'm really proud of this place. It's really a place of Tikkun Olam, a place where we sanctify Hashem's name on a daily basis.
That's amazing. So you mentioned that Adi Negev is the big center for servicing this out, and it sits at the entrance to Ofakim, which is a city that experienced a massacre of 50 people killed and many more injured. So maybe tell us a little bit about your personal experience, October 7th, and the immediate craziness afterwards, the week or 2 weeks afterwards, and also how it affected your team, your staff, your hospital, and the other services that Adi Negev provides?
Yeah, so on October 7th, I was with my wife and my kids at Beit Shemesh, celebrating Simchat Torah. We started hearing some booms, and we didn't really know what exactly it was. And then there were some sirens. I started seeing young soldiers going over to their parents in their uniform right here in some fog and running off. So I knew that something was going on. The After Simchat Torah was over, we turned on our phones and everything, and we saw that the bad news of what happened down south. I see a lot of messages on the WhatsApp groups from the administration and Adi Negev, stating that some of my coworkers are missing. Some of them. A few days later, we found out that one coworker was killed on some restaurant here in the village. So she was traveling. She was in Ofakim. She finished her shift and she was going back home. And then a few coworkers lost their children on some Torah. A lot of my coworkers, because we're only 12 miles away from the Gaza border, they reside in Gaza border communities, so we didn't know what happened to them. Because a day or two until we heard back from them saying that they're alive, they're okay, that they were basically rescued by IDF and Secret Service forces from their safe rooms. After they ate there for so many hours without food, without drink, it was just a very big Balagan. On October 8th, there was still a chashash, there was still a worry that there is terrorists on the go in our areas, and thousands of terrorists came into Israel. And I remember not going to work on October 8th because everybody was afraid to go out, and I don't carry a gun yet. So I decided to hold off at home. And I remember on October 8th, I already mobilized everybody around my area. I told them I worked down south and I plan on going tomorrow to work. And we already knew that there were more than 100 soldiers that were stationed out in Adi Negev. Adi Negev is right next to the school system as well. And we have some empty buildings that were still not fully utilized. So some of those buildings on campus here in Adi Negev became the headquarters of, IDF, Lean reserves communities for them. And this is where they slept, this is where they ate, this is where they showered. And they would go every single afternoon throughout the night, missions around Gaza and Gaza border communities to try to, eliminate terrorists and save whoever is still left or is able to be saved and attend to the bodies as well. And so I mobilized a lot of different friends and community members in Beit Shemesh, and people started bringing to my house and filled it. I remember our Toyota Sienna with tons and tons of equipment, sanitary things, toiletries and undershirts and underwear and food and canned foods and clothing, whatever you can think of. I did that for a few days straight. I also run a nonprofit organization with my parents in the United States. People started sending me money, and we basically would make sure that we are offering everything that we can to help both the communities that were uprooted from their homes and the Baritz families, as well as the IDF soldiers who now required, us a place to stay for Shabbat and they needed hot plates and urns and Shabbos food and whatever needed to get done. We're able to raise a lot of funds to be able to attend to their physical needs while they're attending to our country and protecting us. It was a great feeling that I picked a place where I was only 12 miles away from the border, safe enough that I'm not so close. But again, on October 7th, it's crazy that they drove, the 19 terrorists drove right by our hospital, literally drove by the entrance. They did not go in and went to the next exit off the main road to Ofakim, where they killed 52 Jews. And we're very lucky because there are around 450 people here on campus at Adi Negev on Simchat Torah. And so it's a miracle that they didn't come in here. I guess they looked at this place as a school and it was Shabbat, so that there was nobody here. So very nice.
Wow. And so we spoke a little bit about the craziness and the intensity of those first few weeks. But for many IDF soldiers and civilians, their big war is actually just starting due to the injuries that they've sustained. And that's where you come in professionally with a lot of these people. So you can tell us a little bit about what you're seeing now as these people embark on their long and slow and painful journey of recovery.
Unfortunately, some of the soldiers that we are taking care of here, they have different sorts of injuries. So orthopedic injuries or neurological injuries, and they vary in the extent of damage. Terrorists in Russia, they use a lot of explosives when they shoot at our soldiers. Those explosives, when they explode, a tremendous amount of shrapnel are thrown everywhere, and those shrapnels are very dangerous. They can break bones, they can destroy all soft tissues, they can go onto brain parenchyma and spinal cord tissue. And so you have a mixture of injuries, from traumatic brain injury to spinal cord injury to peripheral nerve injuries, or some of my patients have complete wrist drops from radial nerve injuries, some have ulnar nerve injuries, some have median nerve injuries, some have sciatic nerve injuries from bullets that penetrated through their thighs. So you basically see everything, and they're complex injuries, and they take a very, very long time to recover and to rehabilitate them. We're talking about months and months and months. I have patients who are injured on October 7th, and they're still undergoing inpatient rehabilitation due to a severe nerve injury, and they required a few surgeries since October 7th and aftermath because of the complex injuries that they sustained. And so it is very gratifying to see your soldiers and the acute that prepared classrooms from the cities here of Ofakim or injured from other Gaza border communities who came here basically wheelchair bound, and now they're able to walk. Some of them still require a walker or a four-prong cane or other types of injuries, and you see the slow progression of these soldiers and how appreciative they are for the tremendous care and the rehabilitation services that they receive. And it's really 5-star rehabilitation. We have the most complicated rehabilitation equipment in the world. I'm not joking when I say that. I've also, part of the projects that I've been working on, one big project is bringing in physical therapists and occupational therapists from the United States and throughout the world. Through the Ministry of Health, I've been able to get them temporary licenses to be able to practice here in Israel. They come for a period of 2 weeks and offer their expertise. Some of them are really, really big experts in the field in the United States and worldwide. Right now, I have
A big shout
this
out
amazing
to
cert. Yeah. So we have one by the name of Aviva Wolf, who's your aunt. And she's a certified hand therapist, and works with very, very famous people in the United States. She's a big star in a hospital for special surgery, where she's offering her services for free to all of our injured citizens and IDF soldiers, and they so greatly appreciate it, and our staff greatly appreciates it. But it's a tremendous, tremendous feeling of satisfaction, knowing that I was able to bring that to fruition, and have these amazing therapists come and offer their services. Because Adi Negev is so vast, we even have housing for volunteers. So it allowed us to be able to host these volunteers for a period of 2 weeks, take care of all their accommodations, food, and room and board, and taxi rides to and from the airport. And Baruch Hashem, it's a very, very successful program for us. Soldiers greatly appreciate it. We took our soldiers just last week to Pitmaster, which is a very, very famous meat restaurant here in Beersheba. Yeah, a few different chains, and Aviva even came with me, and the soldiers so greatly appreciated it. We tried to do a lot of extracurricular activities for them, like diving courses that we've done for them, working on other amazing things for them, grilling for the soldiers, and other things. So it's a tremendous sense of satisfaction that I feel as a staff member here to be able to help these heroes of Am Yisrael.
It's amazing how you found yourself in a situation where you're able to leverage both your medical skills and your personal networks and knowing Americans and knowing Israel. I think it's really amazing how you're able to blend that all together during this special time. I wanted to ask you, you did mention before the tremendous atmosphere of unity and motivation and inspiration during the first few weeks. And that's natural that we're able to mobilize a little easier when there's an acute and short-term need. And now you talked about the long-term, slow rehabilitative process of these soldiers. And I'm wondering if you have any tips for people listening who, sometimes in life we need to go through these slow processes, and how do you stay motivated and inspired to keep up with the system? I'm sure it's a lot harder. I mean, it is a lot harder to go through slow processes than these short-term intense ones. So maybe you can give us some insights as to how the soldiers and the staff and everyone else involved is able to keep their eyes on the prize, stay focused, and stay motivated in the slower long-term growth.
I tell you, I think the best way to do that is to visualize the starting point. When you visualize the starting point, for example, when it comes to an injured soldier, he comes in wheelchair bound in severe pain. I try to remind him as he progresses slowly and he still has some challenges. That first day that he came, I want you to think back about that first day that he came. I know that you're still suffering and it's difficult and challenging, but think back to then and think back to and then think of what's going on now and what situation are you now? How much improvement do you see? What were things that you were not able to do a few months back and that you're able to do now? Obviously, we still have a lot of goals that we need to complete before you can be discharged back to the community. But I want you to focus on the positive. We say, Chafam, Ezel Chafam, right? Who is the wise person? Someone who sees what is going to be born, right? The birth. And Chafam, in an acronym, is Chatzi Kos Melea, half cup full. Right? You can always look at things as everything is not good, everything is bad. That's Chatzi Kos Melea. Always looking at the glass half empty. That's not good. We need to, in the rehabilitation world, we have to always try to focus on the positive, because the dynamics of the patient, what determines whether the patient will continue to progress in therapy, really has to do with where the psyche is. Where's the nefesh? When you daven for someone's refuah, you daven that they should have a refuah on nefesh, and only then you daven for a refuah on guf. Why? Because the nefesh basically supersedes everything. If your nefesh is in the right place, nothing's going to stop you. The most severe injuries I have, a few soldiers that were really, really severely injured. I remember the first day I came and I met them at their bedside and they were wheelchair bound and they were in a tremendous amount of pain, and I see them smiling and laughing. And I said to myself, wow, you're in 10 out of 10 pain, you're telling me you're laughing? This is amazing. Yeah. I wish I could be, have that same kochos that you had. It turns out that soldier became an Ispahan Nasi. He received the presidential award on Yom Ha'atzmaut. And I'm not surprised once after I met him for the first time. I also survived the Nova Festival. It's something that's really awe-inspiring when you see someone who is able to look at his difficult situation, but think positive and act in a positive way and know that my goal, I'm going to reach that goal. It doesn't matter if it's going to take me a month, 2 months, 3 months, a year. I'm going to get there at the end of the day. And you know what? People who set goals for themselves, this has been studied throughout the ages. People who set goals for themselves and they write it down on paper and they visualize their goals are much more likely. There's a much higher percentage of them completing their goals than someone who just thinks of these goals in their head. So I always try to visualize it for my patients, to write it down for my patients, and force them to do the same. And I think that at the end of the day, that really bears fruit. What's also amazing we talked about refuah nefesh, why Adi Negev is such a wonderful place, is that if you walk right outside of our hospital premises here, you have 40 acres of land, right? Where the hospital only constitutes around 3 acres of that land. The rest of the 37 acres of land are beautiful greenery, like an oasis. You walk outside and it opens up the nefesh. We have therapeutic horseback riding. We have whole gardening, organic farms, all around us. We have a hydrotherapy pool. We have all this open space outside that patients and their families are able to go as soon as they finish their treatment for the day. They're able to take their family members outside, even if it's with a wheelchair or a walker, and walk around the premises on these 40 acres of beautiful greenery. And it's basically opens up the nefesh and allows the nefesh to heal. When the nefesh is healing, the body will follow suit. So that's that. There couldn't be a better designed place to rehabilitate than Adi Negev. It really is awe-inspiring. A lot of my soldiers say to me, Dr. Kramer, I don't want to tell my newly injured friends about this place because I'm afraid that they're going to come and use up all their equipment, and I'm going to have to wait to be able to use all these beautiful facilities and amenities that you have here for us. So, of course, that's a joke because we have plenty of space here and we're able to offer services to whoever needs it, and they shouldn't need it. But if they do need to rehabilitate, this is where I would want, myself to rehabilitate. So I could not have asked for more.
Wow. And do you and your staff ever find yourself needing a little bit of a boost, a little bit of refuat nefesh, and what do you guys do to find it?
Yeah, so we try to do a lot of activities for our staff. We have psychologists, rehab psychologists on campus here, and they take a lot of our staff out, to open up our minds and to free us from a lot of our challenges and difficulties. A lot of our coworkers are still not living in their homes because they live in Gaza border community. Some are still living in the Dead Sea areas in the hotels. You can imagine how difficult that is. Some of them have found temporary housing in other communities. That's also difficult because you're not in your own space. But at least there was their communities all together that moved over there. Yeah, we try to do also programs for them. We bring in medical clowns here on a regular basis. We do a lot of activities for them outside of work, to try to ease the tension that they're experiencing, taking them to different restaurants and doing activities here, bringing personal chefs over here and having beautiful activities for them, musicians, all these other things to be able to address the nefesh so that their guf can continue to perform and give the ultimate care to our patients. And I think overall, I can tell you that when a lot of my coworkers either have been called on terms service in the IDF or their husbands or wives were called into service, or the ones that have been uprooted from their homes, the administration here in Adi Negev really went above and beyond to offer them care packages, to give them extra funding to be able to support them through their difficult and challenging times, babysitting services, school services, apartments here that they can live here on campus and continue to offer their expertise to the patients. So many stories of heroism from the side of the administration here. I think our administration, our CEO, Avi Vosna, really does an amazing job to be able to keep this place as one big family. And there's hundreds and hundreds of workers here on campus, and this place still feels like a very close-knit family. And that's the beauty of this place, where I pretty much feel very privileged to be a part of.
Amazing. So we covered a lot of ground today. And as for our last question, I wanted to ask you, you did mention to me before your involvement in the Tsurba program. Maybe tell us a little bit about Tsurba and how you ended up bringing that to your community.
Yeah, so this past summer, my wife and I, we moved from Long Beach to Beach. We bought a house there, and we joined shul close to our home. And I decided that, to open up a Tzuva Harabanan Shir program right after the Shabbos morning davening is over. And with a few other guys from the shul, we started this Tabura in Surah Harabanan. So we basically started from the beginning, from Valley College, and we plan on going through the entire series. And every Shabbat we meet and we sit together, we learn, discuss Torah. I also started a program in the shul for parent-children learning program in our shul, where people come in the winter on Motzei Shabbat, and we offer raffles and we offer pizza every single Motzei Shabbat to the kids in the community that come out with their parents and to learn Torah. In the summer, we moved it from Motzei Shabbat to Shabbat afternoons, and we also do Tehillim with the kids. All these beautiful programs to be able to increase Torah study in the community is very, very important, to spread the light of Torah throughout Am Yisrael. So it's a big blessing, and I think people in the community really, really appreciate it. I know that myself and my children, my wife, we all truly appreciate those opportunities to sit and learn Torah with our children, to transmit the Torah to the next generation. That's what really it's all about. At the end of the day, we're here to one of the questions we're asked after 120 years is, right, a sect that you try to have children. Children are a continuation, they are a legacy, right? The biggest bracha that you can give a fruit tree, an Elon, is that that all the plantations, the shoots that come out of you should be just like you. If you are Oved Hashem, you want to transmit that over to your children to be Avdei Hashem, to be able to fix this world with Malchut Shakaya, and that's what we're trying to do every day.
And why did you choose Tsurba specifically? Can you tell us a little bit about what the program is and why you thought that was the right format to use?
What Tsurba Narabanan is, they have beautiful packet booklets that go through different halachic topics that you deal with every single day of your life, and on Chagim, on Shabbatot. And so we decided to take something that was simple to learn, go through those packets, be able to amass knowledge in terms of halacha and knowing what to do in certain situation that you're stuck in Orach Chaim every single day of your life. It just made it so much easier to be able to have something ready to go from that basically did all the work for you and took all the Rishonim, took all the Achronim, put them all very, very organized into different subjects. And every single week we try to accomplish another subject and another subject of halacha. Now I know, if, for example, we did a tzitzis, right? So if I have an issue with my tzitzis, or if I want to be able to educate my children on proper wear of tzitzis and why it's not good to wear a polyester type of tzitzis and you should really try to get a cotton one or something from wool. These are things that we discuss in Achabura, and you're able to then bring it to life at home. And so I feel that this was a perfect fit for us, for our community, and people who seem to greatly appreciate it. So Bezrat Hashem, we should just continue to grow.
Amazing. And do you have any final thoughts? Anyone's listening to this, they may be in America, they may be in Israel or the UK, and they want to be doing a little more to help the country and the soldiers and the injured rehabilitate. Do you have any ideas for them how they could be helpful based on what your experiences and what you're seeing?
So I tell you, we have a lot of groups that come to Adi Negev to visit here and to see our work firsthand with their own eyes. So first of all, I'm inviting anybody who wants to come. He's welcome to contact me. My US cell is 917-915-6106, and WhatsApp there. You can contact me that way. Yeah, so they can definitely contact me, and when they come, they can volunteer. They can just show support. I know that my patients greatly appreciate these during the visits, and people come and they give them little cards and to the chayalim and boxes of chocolates and other things to show their support. It really means a lot to them. To know that people throughout the world are really thinking about that, davening for them. It's one thing if you're doing it in your own house, in your own community, but when you come to Israel and you show solidarity and support, it really is gives that extra oomph and feeling that, wow, these people really care about us. That's one. And of course, even if someone is not traveling to Israel, there's plenty of opportunities. You can give from yourself financially. You can write cards and send them to Israel. You can run volunteer programs and gather equipment for soldiers, for chayalim, and ship them to Israel. There's so many beautiful chesed organizations that opened up in the aftermath of October 7th. They're doing tremendous good from just a small little guy in the big ocean of this chesed. So I urge all of you to find chesed opportunities around you that are supporting our chayalim, vigilant groups, and other types of things, whatever you can do to Tefillah, Maasim Tovim, and Bezrat Hashem, Am Yisrael will always continue. I'm going to Shakir B'Ma'ilacheh, Am Yisrael Chai. Thank you very much, everybody, and Hashem should bless you all for keep doing all your work.
Thank you, Dr. Kramer.